Meeting to order. It is 7:41 on October 19th, 2020. Um, I would like to just restate the meeting format quickly, and then we'll ask the clerk for a roll call and a statement of public notice. Um, this is a teleconference meeting of the village board. The president will be leading the meeting, and the board members will be called upon to speak. If there are members of the public on the call that desire to speak on a topic that's not on the agenda, they'll be provided an opportunity to do so under citizens to be heard on the agenda. The president may also allow for the public to speak following village board member discussion on an item following the village board discussion. To ensure an efficient meeting, members of the public, village board members, and the village administration should not speak until called upon to do so. So clerk, would you like to call the roll?
Yes. Trustee Menta.
Here.
Trustee Backhorst.
Here.
Trustee Carpenter.
Here.
Trustee Ursink.
Here.
Trustee Stokebrand.
Here.
Trustee Warren.
Here and eating dinner. I'll be back on camera once I'm done with dinner.
President Rosick.
Here.
All right. All trustees are noted present.
Thank you. And have we provided the right public notice for the meeting?
The meeting has been posted and noticed according to law.
Thank you so much. Our first agenda item tonight is agenda item number 4A. It's under special order of business. It is to review WisDOT's Lake Drive design options. Christine Hanna from WisDOT is the project manager, and she is here to speak and present first. Christine.
Yes, hello. Hi, everyone. My name is Christine Hanna. I'm the project manager from Wisconsin Department of Transportation for this Lake Drive project. The purpose of my attendance today is to go through the letter that I have provided to the village management in regarding to that project. This project extends from Edgewood Avenue to Kensington Boulevard. Originally, we had an agreement with the village to reconstruct that project and deliver it in 2025. However, recently, the department has adopted a new performance-based practical design, meaning that we are trying to look an effective way for, we call it asset management for cost savings while focusing on safety and operations. That being said, we are trying to reevaluate that project to be more so of a pavement replacement versus reconstruction. The only difference between those terminologies is a pavement replacement is pretty much to take what it says, the pavement out, and put back the pavement back in. Reconstruction, what we call nowadays, is expansions, and we're not expanding anything on that segment of the road. Therefore, we are proceeding with the pavement replacement terminology. Now, with that being said, there are a couple of things we needed to put in mind while we're going through that letter, that this is a one-time opportunity that WisDOT has to put forward for this project, since that type of pavement replacement lasts between 30 to 45 years. So this is our very seldom opportunity to enhance all type of mode of transportation, meaning pedestrian, bikers, traveling mode, whatever that may exist on the roadway. With that being said, we looked at different alternatives within this segment to accommodate for bike with parking and travel lanes. Currently, we have 44 foot of road width from face to face of the curb. Yes, from face to face of the curb. We have parking on both sides of the road, and we have bikes on both sides of the road, shared bike and parking, and 2 travel lanes, 1 in each direction. So with the new reconstruction or pavement replacement project, I should say, we are trying to find alternatives to provide more width for bike lane to provide for more safer ride on the road. So currently, the minimum we have between parking and bikes on our segment, we need to provide 13 foot. Currently, we have only 12. That means that we want extra foot or 2 on each side of the roadway. That being said, we have provided a couple of alternatives. I don't know if you guys are going through them or went through them or not, but these alternatives are what we are mainly want to focus on today. So alternative one is to remove the parking of one of the sides of the roadways, okay, and keep the other side of the parking and use that extra width to accommodate for bike lanes. The impact of that it will impact the parking, of course, and the access to any nearby park areas or other public facilities. That's definitely an option out there. And option two is widen the road by 2 feet, which is going to be within the terrace area. This is going to definitely impact the mature trees you have along the segment. It's going to impact any possible existing historic district. You are within a historic district, this segment between Edgewood and Kensington. So definitely will have some impact. And also the widening of that roadway, the 2 feet, would be a village cost. It's not going to be with that cost. And the reason for that is we typically manage the operation on the road, meaning the travel lanes, the bike lanes, and so forth. But parking is pretty much any municipality responsibility. That's why when we have state municipal agreements with any municipality, parking is also always non-participating cost. Finally, option number 3 is a combination between 1 and 2, meaning some areas, I'm going to pick on the park area. Where the park is, we're going to leave the parking as is and maybe widen this area, and other areas where parking is not as necessary, like the park segment, we will eliminate the parking. So it could be a combination of 1 and 2. Note that all of these alternatives are still needs to be further investigated and evaluated within the design process. The reason why we're bringing it here in front of you is we want to know which direction we should go with, because at the end of the day is the village decision. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Christina. I thought you had paused it, that you were done. Continue.
No, one last thing, you don't see it here written in your letter, is the village also have an opportunity to say, no, I want to put the pavement and the typical section, I should say, I want to use the not technical terminology here, I'm sorry, but we want to put the pavement and the roadway as is. We want the parking to remain as is. We want the travel lane to remain as is. We just want to improve the pavement out there, and that's it. We don't want you to widen, we don't want you to add anything.
Thank you. I typically do not go first, and because I sat on Public Works Committee when this project went forward for the resurfacing 2 years ago, I am going to go. There's some very important facts that may have been left out. One, you mentioned that originally it was 2025 that this project was being planned for reconstruction at the time. That's what we were told. And now, have we moved that date up?
That date was actually or currently in our system to be let in 2024, meaning construction is 2025. But this is an advanceable let, meaning if the budget allows for us to advance that project to that year. So we have something called advanceable let and we have actual let.
Okay. And the reason I ask is we just did repave it, so I don't know. Usually repavement lasts for a long time. Or 10 years, I don't know the minimum, but so an early let is odd that DOT would want to do that. The second question I have is that we have a really bad, and Leanne, correct me if I'm wrong, but we have a water main that was the big problem underneath the road. Does a repavement project allow for that water main to be reconstructed?
That is correct. So actually, I can elaborate on that a little bit more. So with the pavement replacement, we can upsize the water main. We can upsize or resize or even just replace sanitary and storm sewer pipes. We can do subgrade improvement depending on the pavement course, that's what happens out there. So underground facilities can definitely be improved part of this project, and they are participating cost.
Okay. And then my last factual question is, I didn't understand, and I'm not sure if some of my board members may not either. When you mentioned the extra foot requirement, is it that we have 12-foot driving lanes now and you want 13 feet. What is the extra foot for?
Okay, so right now, if you want to look at the roadway from face of the curb to the face of the curb, we have 4 11 lanes. I'm sorry, yes, 4 11-foot lanes.
Travel lanes.
Well, we have 4 11-foot lanes. 2 on the outside are parking / bike lanes, and 2 on the inside, which 11-foot for travel lanes, correct?
Okay, and the extra foot is for the travel / bike lane?
Correct. So we want to widen on the outside to allow for both.
Okay, and did you know this when 2 years ago when our consultant ran the project, our repavement by DOT?
It was known, but it was part of the reconstruction, and any reconstruction project has to meet ADA compliance. So when we started going through the design, if that started at that time, we would have still have to go through that. So that's nothing new.
It's something new.
It's not. The only thing new here is the difference between terminology of reconstruction versus pavement replacement. That's newer to this.
Thank you.
Number 2 step that is new. Actually, it's not new. I thought to introduce it since we're talking out to you guys about this is what we're gonna do with the typical section. Are we gonna widen? And I know from talking to your management that's not preferred, but again, we wanted to put it on the table.
Okay, so saying that, I'll just give you my opinion, then I'll go around the board, make sure everybody gets their chance to ask questions and give their opinions. There's a 4th option that's not listed. I'm pretty aggravated, I can tell you, that 2 years ago we spent a lot of money repaving this and putting in a bike lane, and we were not told at that time, and I was on the Public Works Committee, the one time it came to us, we were not told by our consultant that we would need an extra foot if we put this bike lane in. So I'm pretty aggravated at that because I think it could have made a difference. But the option that is not on here is to take away the bike lane. I know it's not a popular one, but I didn't want to not have it at least as an option, because in my opinion, and now I'm just going to give my opinion, then I'll pass it over. I do not want mature trees to be taken down. I can't imagine losing parking. When we had this discussion 2 years ago, the residents along Lake Drive were adamant that their landscapers park on the streets. We painted lines specifically so that they wouldn't be, lines showing so they're far enough back from curbs. Parking was huge, and we are always talking about our beach, and so I can't fathom that we would lose parking anywhere in and around the beach. So with that said, I am in favor of none of the alternatives that have been presented, and I think we need to rethink this. And now I will pass it over. Does anyone want to go next? I'll go around the table. Trustee Carpenter.
So I just have some, my immediate flashback goes to our Lake Drive discussion before we repaved and restriped the street, which was a pretty hotly contested conversation because there was a lot of concern regarding speed on the street as well as parking. And so we came to some consensus about essentially putting Lake Drive on a diet, if you will, to slow traffic, to slow traffic a little bit. And so, I just have some real, to be honest, I'm not really excited about any of the options. Taking away a bike lane is not an ideal option. Removing parking, we just talked about at length about how important the beach is to our community. And I really believe it is. It actually not just to our community, but to all of Milwaukee. And so to think that there would not be parking, sort of just it just doesn't seem like a fathomable option. So, I, knowing that we're going to do this all over again pretty quickly, I feel like we are in a really tough place. This is not an ideal situation. And I'm a little bit confused and concerned that it seems like there's been some lack of communication as to when this was supposed to be done. I thought that this was actually, I seem to remember 2026, but maybe it was 2025. So, I mean, I just, to tear down trees, especially, you know, on that street just seems like the wrong answer. So to be honest, I'm not really excited about any of the options, even the fourth one that you suggested, President Rozek.
May I add something, please?
Sure.
Okay, so there is another option, I will call the fifth option, since the fourth one was added by the president. The fifth option was to do nothing, meaning for us to come in, remove the pavement, do the underground water main, storm sewer, sanitary, and put it back as is. So we don't have to follow any of the options. They are just out there to lay it out to you guys. So you can elect to go back and say, no, we want you to come in and improve the pavement, do all of those utility work, and put it back as is. We want the 11 feet, 4 lanes. We don't want to do anything. You can elect to do that. And to answer one more thing is, yes, the pavement marking project, I was told about that. Of course, I wasn't part of it. The reason why maybe that was not brought up about the shared bike and parking lanes, because that was a resurfacing project. We're not really touching anything except the top asphaltic pavement. So for us to widen or do something major, it was not really part of that deep scope. But here we're doing major work. We are removing all of this pavement. And this is once in a lifetime chance. Like you just said, President, asphalt lasts between 5 to 10 years at the most with proper maintenance. With reconstruction of pavement replacement, we're talking 35 to 40 years. So that's a longer term. So of course, there's a big difference between both.
Thank you so much. Trustee Warren.
Yeah, I mean, I would echo a lot of the points made by Trustee Carpenter. I mean, you know, to think where we are and how much we value our beach, removing parking is a non-starter. I also have no interest in cutting down mature trees. You know, we pride ourselves on having a really kind of a lot of trees in our village, a good urban canopy. You know, so, you know, from everything I'm hearing, I would lean to, I understand that it's a once in a 35-year type opportunity. I get that, but option 5 seems the most realistic to me. I don't know that I'm prepared to move forward with any of these options in terms of widening the road or anything like that. It just seems like option 5 is, you know, just putting back down what we have there. And
Thank you, Trustee Warren. Trustee Ursink.
You know, I'll echo what I think many people have said already. I couldn't get behind cutting down any mature trees. I couldn't, you know, but at the same time, you know, I don't want to take anything away from the biking community. I also, you know, I think the one thing I would love to see in this is maybe enhance those you know, the biking lanes, but you know, I'd be all in favor of the option 5 unless there's something, you know, without widening the street that we can do for the bikers, because it is a challenge to bike on that street during the day. So I'd love to explore a little bit more on what we could do, and you know, with the bike lanes and not expanding them. But I'm not for cutting down any mature trees or expanding the street.
Thank you so much. Trustee Stokebrand.
So I'm really confused by the fact that the project went from one category to another. So that was determined by the DOT. We went from reconstruction, which lasts 35 to 45 years, to the pavement replacement, which lasts how long?
It's the same. It lasts about exactly the same. The only difference in those terminology is one thing. Reconstruction now is called expansion, like the terminology, the definition was FHWA is expansion. We're not expanding here. So pavement replacement is almost like a reconstruction with having the footprint exactly the same. That's all what it is.
So if we would decide to go wider, it would then become reconstruction?
Correct.
Okay, all right. Well, yeah, I think we've decided that's a non-starter. And so going from reconstruction to pavement replacement, if we stay with the same footprint, is our cost the same?
Yes, your participating cost that was already agreed upon remain the same.
Okay, and so I think what we have right now really is no bike lane. I know you call it two-stripe shared bike parking lanes, but it's really a parking lane. For, as an avid bicyclist, without a designated bicycle lane, it's very dangerous to ride in that lane because it's really parking. And my question to you is, how do we, it seems to me that we need to work with Milwaukee and Whitefish Bay on this, because for us, if, you know, I don't know if a bike lane has to be, I think, a minimum of 5 feet, we wouldn't want a bike lane on one side, because don't bike lanes have to be one way? I mean, wouldn't you have to have one on each side?
You don't have to if you have an alternate lane elsewhere, but preferably you should have one on each direction. And like I was telling others before, I had a project with John Edelberg in Village of Whitefish Bay that we finished, and they have a bike lane on each direction. Just to kind of add to what you mentioned, to clarify, the minimum shared bike and parking lane is 13 feet. So right now we have 11. So this is where the 2-foot comes in. And without, like I heard from others, and I'm sure we're going to hear from the rest, we don't want to cut mature trees. The other option is, which I hear that is not really preferred still, is remove parking. But yet parking is very important for landscaper parking and all the neighborhoods out there that need their parking.
So are you saying in Whitefish Bay, they have, where we have an 11-foot parking spot on each side of the 11-foot lane of traffic, they have 13 feet because they can have a bike lane and a parking?
Yes, and it's not a striped bike lane throughout, it's just shared. So the biker share it with the parking. And
so the project south of Edgewood for Milwaukee, when is that pavement replacement?
It's coming up. Let me pull it up my screen. I'll let you know in 1 second.
I mean, ideally for commuters with bicycles and, you know, people riding for leisure, the whole point would be to have a consistent bike lane.
Yes, correct.
All the way through, but obviously that's a price that we can't pay with our trees and our parking requirements. But it'd be nice to know if the city's going to do it and Whitefish Bay is going to do it, then we're going to be the one connection that doesn't work all the way.
So the City of Milwaukee Lake Drive is going to be taking place in 2025. They're coming before you.
Well, ours is the same time, right? 2025, right?
Yes, they're going to be exactly 2024 let.
So they'll be done in 2024.
They will start in 2024, maybe one season, or maybe it will carry over to the following 2025. It depends on the construction.
And you'll work north? You'll work north?
Their project limits are from Newberry to Edgewood, yes. So they stop where you start to Edgewood, and they start at Newberry.
Are they developing a plan for parking and a bike lane and the traffic both directions?
I'm in conversation with them right now, exactly like I'm talking to you. So we haven't decided yet.
Okay, that's all good to know. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Trustee Amenta and then Trustee Bockhorst.
So my question is, if you need 13 feet for a combined parking bike lane, and we only have 11, so it's going to be just parking then, right?
It can be called, we have something called Shero, means it's a shared parking bike lane. We can typically, it's 12 foot, but we can get an exception for 11 foot, okay? But the problem with that is we have to make sure that we do our due diligence to ensure that it's gonna work and it's gonna be safer for bikers before we tell them, hey, you can use this as a bike lane. So it is an option out there, but it's not our top priority option.
But I mean, that's what we have now, right? We have 11-foot lane that's parking and Shero for bike lanes.
Correct. And the reason why I am okay with us going with the Shero, but I wanted to, again, the final decision to be made by the village. I looked at the past 1 year's safety report crashes, and there were only 2 crashes, bike crashes, and they were due inattentive bikers that they actually rear-ended a car. So it was not like a car like dooring or hitting a biker or something like that. So in the past 20 years, there was no significant safety concern in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to stick with, I know we all wish there were another couple feet there, but I don't think going into the parkway, and I agree, I don't want to lose trees. And, you know, just certainly around Atwater, we need the parking. I mean, other parts of Lake Drive, I think we might look at the parking situation, and I'm not sure how much of a demand. I don't know. I don't live over there, so I don't know how much of a demand it is for parking. So it might be we could do like park on, you know, the east side for 1 block and then the west side for another block if we had to. I mean, not around Atwater, but maybe farther north. So, but, you know, generally speaking, I'd say I'd prefer to just stick with the way it is.
Thank you. Trustee Bockhorst.
Thank you. So tonight it's a review, and I know she's looking for feedback, but I think, and maybe I'm the only one here that feels this way, but I think that would be, if we are going to have to make a decision, having more visuals and other materials instead of a letter, just so that we can see and visualize some of this would be better. But I do agree with what most of people have said here tonight. Environmental reasons, we don't want to get rid of the trees. We definitely don't want to get rid of the bike lanes, and widening any street adds that much more surface area that is not good for the environment, as well as far as waste areas, water management, et cetera, especially in an impermeable pavement such as this. Would like to also know, and also point out that the Sherall situation, you know, was highly discussed, and we did have that, you know, lots of focus groups and things regarding Lake Drive, and I know a lot of people were opposed to narrowing the street or narrowing, you know, having only 1 lane of traffic, and it seems to have worked well. So I'm happy that we did that. Don't want to get rid of the parking, especially along the beach as well. I understand the whole argument about landscapers and stuff too. I mean, Lake Drive driveways are generally, not all, but a lot of them are a lot bigger than the average Bears driveway. So the landscape argument, you know, I could see it going either way. But I'd also love to know how this fits in with the Bike and Ped Safety's comprehensive plan that they put forward and the board reviewed several years back. Would also like to hear from staff regarding, you know, some of the comments. I know we're going around here first, but we're being asked to make comments on something from the Wisconsin DOT. So those 2 items to me would probably be the most important. And then also reminding everyone that we're not really voting on this tonight. It's just reviewing. So thank you.
Thank you. And before we hear from staff, I do have one specific question that I remember from Public Works. Pedestrian safety, bike safety, I remember was leading the charge for the Sharrows. And so if there's any update to that, I will ask staff, as Trustee Bockhorst has asked, in 1 second. But the main question I have is, when our consultant, when we were going through the resurfacing, talked about the Capitol intersection, the intersection between Lake Drive and Capitol Drive. And that when we were going to do our reconstruction, the state may have a problem with the layout that we had chosen. And I'm just wondering if the state has any proposed changes to that intersection, or if, as you had mentioned, the 5th alternative, just putting it back exactly the same, is okay, including that intersection.
I'm not really aware of any Capitol Drive and Highway 32 layout that was discussed before. All one I'm aware of that there is some signal issues and some crash issues with turning movement at a signalized intersection. And this is something we can look through within the design to make sure that the turning movement, like the truck would not ride the curb, would not hit the pedestrian waiting at the curb ramps. If that's what you're referring to, then this is something we're gonna go through the design and make some geometry changes. But if it's something else that I'm not aware of, then I will go and check it out.
Oh, it's okay. I just wanted to make the newer staff member or newer board members aware. I believe the concern, it's in the report, but was we're going to lose a lot of parking there because of the turn radiuses. I could be incorrect. So why don't we ask staff? Trustee Bachhorst wanted to answer, and then for her question, then I would like to ask whoever's on the line for DPW. And Trustee, before we do that, Trustee Stokebrand.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot to ask. So Whitefish Bay added a lot of pedestrian crossings, like 3 of them in Lake Drive, on Lake Drive this summer, with the flashing lights and maybe buttons, I'm assuming buttons, and a median in the middle of Lake Drive. So is that something that you would recommend putting in, or would we have to ask for that? Because I think we need at least 3 of those. Besides Lake Drive, we need one at Jarvis. We probably need one at Lake Bluff. We need one maybe at Shorewood Boulevard. How does that happen?
So to explain that to you, the project that you're referring to was Whitefish Bay. That was something we call in our terminology HISAP, means it's a safety project. So the village of Whitefish Bay showed that to the DOT that they have a safety concern with pedestrian crossings, and especially around, they are a little bit on a curve, more than on a straight line. So they were able to determine that. And based on that, based on these facts, those instrument or tools were added, the flashing light for the pedestrian crossing, the push buttons, all of those items. So to answer your question, yes, the village would need to request that from the DOT, that they will either like to add it to this project, to be part of this project. And we have to evaluate if it was a request based on village need, that it will be your participating cost. But if we were able to prove that they are for safety, then it will be our cost.
And so did you pay for all of those in Whitefish Bay?
No, because they were able to determine they were safety issues out there.
So did the state pay, or did who paid, the state or Whitefish Bay?
The state paid for them.
For all of them?
All of them.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Trustee Bachhorst, would you restate your question?
My question was for staff regarding, what their comments were, since they've probably been more intricately involved with this. And also one of the other things I wanted to mention was that when we redid Oakland and we included a bike lane on Oakland, it wasn't up to code or whatever the terminology it is. It was 2 feet shorter than what was prescribed, but due to the constraints in the street, we were able to go with it. So. And also the other thing is the road builders do play a big role in Wisconsin. And I just want to keep in mind that I would hate to widen something, and the road builders, if there's something else they can widen somewhere else in the state, still get paid. Everyone still wins, but not sure if this is the place for it.
Thank you. So I'm just going through questions right now for staff. And then we can go around the table again if trustees have more opinions. So to answer Trustee Bachhorst's question, does staff have any comments? And then maybe while staff's doing that, I had the question of Capitol Drive and that discussion, the intersection there. So maybe comments about that as well. DPW?
I'm here.
Hi.
Hi. Well, I guess to respond to your questions about the intersection of Capitol and Lake Drive, the only thing that comes to mind from that discussion is what Christina said, that there was some concern about turning movements when we went from 4 lanes to 2, and how that would, for instance, back up traffic trying to make a right-hand turn. There was a lot of discussions about that. And the geometry of the intersection is a little funny. I know we had requested the DOT originally to look at that northeast corner because we are unable to keep any type of traffic signal in place there without getting hit periodically from large trucks and things. So I know those discussions took place when we were considering our overlay project. And those are the 2 that I remember.
Any effect on parking? I specifically remember that when the state redid it, we would have an effect on parking?
I don't recall. I know, like the DOT is presenting tonight, that's their standard that a shared parking bike lane, their standard details are 13 feet with an exception for 11 or 12. When we were doing that, we understood that we didn't have that at the time either. And since it was a overlay project, we weren't expanding anything then either. We opted for the 11-foot shared lane as well.
Trustee Bachhorst, is there any other comments you wanted to hear from staff?
No, thanks. I would just like to say that I would love this to be brought back with more details. So just in the sake of timeliness, just wondering, since we don't have to make a decision tonight.
Thank you. Does any other staff or trustee have a comment or a question at this time? If I'll hear from Rebecca, and then I think I'll summarize for our consultant, Village Manager Ewald.
I just want to clarify from the board's perspective. I think the majority of members on the board, if I am correct with what I heard, prefer that the roadway be left in the same configuration that it is now. The DOT is looking for direction. So if there's more information that you need in order to make that decision, I would ask that you relay to the DOT what additional information you would need in order to prepare yourself to make a future decision. Trustee Carpenter, I see you raised your hand.
I see that too, but
oh, okay.
Okay. So to summarize, and Rebecca, thank you, because that's exactly what I was going to say. It sounds like the board is in agreement fully that no expansion is needed. If there is an alternative 5, I think every single person here has made it clear that that's, same cost to the village. I think that has been made clear that that would be the preferred alternative. Going on what Rebecca had mentioned, I did hear so far from Trustee Stokebrand that we would like to investigate additional crosswalks with some similarity to Whitefish Bay, and whether we have a need and what the cost split would be. I would like to express parking meters potentially next to the park, but again, that's not probably, it might not be the majority of the board that wants that. I'm just saying my personal opinion would be this is the time to explore it if we were going to explore it. So those are the 2 things that I've heard so far. And then from Trustee Ursink, I did hear if there's any way possible to make the bike lane safer or expanded without expanding the road, any type of improvement to the bike lane, that is something that we'd be interested in looking at as well. Trustee Carpenter.
Yeah, I just had a question I mean, that is just definitely my sentiment, but the storm and sewer work that would be done, how would the road be repaired once that work is done? I just want to make sure, right now we have a really nice smooth drive on Lake Drive, and I just want to make sure that that would obviously there would be some change made, but I would really like to make sure that that remains as smooth as possible.
I can answer you that question. So typically the process here is we develop something called traffic control plan, where the contractor would work with us to, let's assume we're going to take one segment of the road between one intersection and the other. We'll do typically half of the road at a time. So we'll come in, we'll put our barricades and barriers. The contract will come remove all the pavement, okay? And we'll see what type of sewer or any sort of utilities underground that needs to be replaced or resized depending on that need. And they will come and replace it. If the entire road needs to be closed because it's one pipe, so we'll have to close the entire segment and detour the traffic. To answer your question without going into a long details, is we're gonna gut everything out, clean it up underneath, put new gravel and subgrades materials, and then put concrete back on top. So actually it's gonna be better than existing.
Sorry, did you say concrete?
Yes.
Not asphalt?
No, concrete.
can you explain why? Because we argued that point immensely before. Is concrete better for a state highway?
Yes, definitely. Better for maintenance cost. I don't know how your maintenance department feels about this. It's less maintenance cost and time-wise, especially with snow and salt. So it actually sustains better than asphalt. It cracks with the water and seeps in and destroy the subgrade. So concrete actually lives longer and easier to maintain than asphalt.
Thank you, Joel. Can you clarify? Because when we had this discussion 2 years ago, DPW was leaning towards, or we used asphalt, but one of the reasons was we can maintain it easier ourselves. Has that changed?
Well, that is the $1 million question and the $1 million fight. What's better, concrete or asphalt, right? I can tell you this, the DOT has lots of experience building state highways. So I believe they know what they're talking about there. One of the reasons that we've always said for our local streets that asphalt works better for us is because of the type of maintenance equipment we have. That's one of the reasons it's easier for us to work with. And also historically, we have not been replacing all the underground utilities when we do a street reconstruction project. By doing that, you're accepting some fact that, in the near future, you will have to dig up that brand new street. In the case of Lake Drive, the majority of the utilities are going to be rebuilt. So it's definitely a different type of street than what we're talking about when we do local street improvements.
Kind of to add also about what DPW have mentioned, the volume on connecting highway or major streets is different than the volume on local roads. And the volume of this is actually what determines the thickness of the pavement, is how much volume or traffic goes on that road every day, especially also percentage of trucks. If you find those big semis, of course, it's not the case here, I'm just talking in general. So of course, the deeper the pavement is, because it depends on how many axles it goes on the road. So we study those and we determine the thickness based on the traffic volume and truck percentages.
And the only reason I ask is we had the same discussion on Wilson Drive simultaneously as the Lake Drive reconstruction, and the costs. We had spreadsheets and spreadsheets about the cost of asphalt, and over the lifetime of the pavement was much cheaper. And we even had 14 dump trucks that go back and forth on Wilson Drive. And I remember talking about the tonnage. So anyways, because there is a cost split on, right, correct, you're not paying 100% the state. I was just wondering why our staff is not arguing for the same thing.
I'm not really sure why, but you are correct about one thing. We only pay for the travel lanes. The parking lanes are cost shared by the village. So those 2 lanes, you guys are paying for them. That's one. Number 2 is, it's our preference to put concrete, and it's a connecting highway, as you know. If the village opts to not putting concrete, we're not really at that stage yet to do the pavement study report, I call it that. If the village at that time say, no, we really don't want concrete, we want asphalt, let's talk about it. I'm not saying it's a decision made, we're gonna use concrete, but from my professional experience, if it was my roadway, I definitely wanna put concrete out there. I don't wanna keep spending money on and on and on fixing a road that with the amount of winter we're gonna be having, I don't wanna keep having cracks on the road, I have to keep filling them. So that's my professional experience.
I agree with you 100%. But Joel, Rebecca, I don't see Leanne. I just remember you arguing the other way last time around. So do you have any objection to the concrete and the extra cost?
As far as Lake Drive, the DOT, ultimately is paying for the travel lanes. So, we haven't gotten to the point where we even had these discussions with the DOT about this. But I suppose we could do concrete in the travel lanes and asphalt in the parking lanes. But, all kidding aside, we have not had those discussions with the DOT on this particular project yet. We haven't got that far in the process.
Okay, thank you. Does any other trustee have a question or comment? If not, then this was not agendized for action, correct? Okay. When will we be, Manager Ewald?
I guess the clarification that I'm looking for from the board is whether we need to bring this back agendized for action. I'm hearing pretty clear direction from all 7 board members that they want to pursue option 5. And I'm seeing heads nodding. So there are some follow-up items that were brought up within the scope of the meeting that the DOT has heard, and that they can work with the village staff in order to bring back to the board to address some of those questions.
Who are you asking that question to? Because I see Trustee Stokebrand's hand, and are you asking board members or are you asking DOT?
Oh, I'm asking the board members.
Oh, okay.
I just don't want to be redundant and bringing the same thing back to action of the board when we're clearly seeing that 7 people would prefer to move forward with option 5, but desire to explore some specific components of the project.
I did hear from Trustee Bockhorst that she did want some additional visuals, which would allow us that opportunity if it did come back to the board. Trustee Stokebrand?
I think too, we need to know if Milwaukee's going to go with full bike lanes in each direction. I just would like to know that as part of the final decision-making process. Thank you. If Whitefish Bay has full bike lanes and the city has full bike lanes and people get to Shorewood and there's no bike lane, I wanted to have that information before I make a final sign off on it.
Thank you. Sorry, my power's been dead. Okay.
Trustee Bockhorst, what additional information do you need to see on a visual?
Oh, thank you. I really don't at this point, if we're all in consensus and as long as staff is okay and DPW with this, then I was just going to say if we maybe some of the things, but I'm fine with making the decision as long as staff feels that this is an adequate decision. If you guys disagree, then please bring it back. But if not, then I'm comfortable with going forward.
Ms. Hannah, when will the DOT be making a decision with Milwaukee and the bike lanes and with Whitefish Bay on the bike lanes?
That's what I was gonna say. This is not gonna be made anytime soon because we have other more important projects to focus on with City of Milwaukee. So I hate to see this is lagging behind, but I guarantee you if the city have the same stand as what I heard today is with option number 5 to leave as is, they will go with that option. They will not widen, I guarantee you that. And they will not remove parking. But I have a meeting tomorrow morning with the city. I will get their census and I will send you a note, not final decision, but about where their stand is today. What are they planning to share with the DOT?
Thank you. And can I just clarify what Trustee Stokebrand had said for final decision? When we went through this 2 years ago, actually an alderman of the city of Milwaukee came. They do not currently have bike lanes. Is that correct?
They have exactly what you have today.
Okay.
Shared.
Okay, because I remember specifically that the alderman did show up, and Trustee Bockhorst remind me, or Trustee Amenta of his name.
Alderman Kovac.
Kovac, thank you so much. So Alderman Kovac did come and said that when they go through the reconstruction, he was 100% in favor of bike lanes. So I just want to, I know you said they're not, but it contradicts a little bit of what we heard from the alderman at that time.
Well, like I said, maybe the information I have is incorrect. So I have the meeting tomorrow morning with the city to discuss 3 projects similar exactly that scope we're going through now. And I will hear from them what their input is. And if they come back and say, yeah, we have some political need, we have some bike communities that want to add that, then we'll discuss and see the outcome. And definitely will share with you to see how that can continuity, if I can say that word correctly, but to see between City of Milwaukee, Whitefish Bay, and Shorewood.
Okay, thank you. And I believe Whitefish Bay doesn't have a decision to make. They already have the bike lanes.
No,
correct?
yes, yes.
Okay, Trustee Stokebrand and then Trustee Bockhorst. Trustee Stokebrand, did that, if it comes back that the City of Milwaukee may investigate bike lanes, are you changing your opinion on unanimous consent on option 5?
I would want to get some input from the Shorewood community on that then.
Okay, so it sounds like direction, you don't have unanimous consent, Rebecca, just from the board, that if it comes back, they are exploring bike lanes, we may want to bring it back to the board. Trustee Bockhorst.
I can tell you that I'll be part of those discussions with the city of Milwaukee, and I can let you guys know as well. And their budget would not sustain. I mean, maybe Alderman Kovac would be in support of this, but there are also 14 other aldermen and women, and they're fighting over scraps right now. So I'd be shocked if they were to go for widening. But anyway, I could get you that information really easily.
Okay, and we'll wait for the letter from the consultant. Rebecca, do you need any other information from us?
No, so I'm hearing, Christine, that you're gonna need to be following back up with us in a written format to advise how the city of Milwaukee intends to proceed.
Yes, I can do that, but also I want to remind you, as we discussed, Rebecca, and we discussed with Leanne, in order to keep the project on schedule, as it's was highlighted in the top of the letter, we need to have an informed decision sooner. When I say soon, hopefully before the end of the year. And we would like that decision to be sent to us. You can send it to my attention via email, whatever, mail, stating what's the village option would be. Even though it's only listed 3 options, but like you said, you have 5. 4 is removing bike lane, as the president related, and option 5, again, it's not written, but is to do nothing. Just take the pavement out, fix underneath, and put it back in as is.
With potentially some changes to Capitol Drive intersection.
Correct. Yes, definitely.
I don't want to
Gotta look at the turning movement and everything there, yes.
Which could have a big impact on the community. I do think this needs to be brought back before the board. I don't know the timing of it, Rebecca, because as we were moving forward, the letter that the consultant has requested from DOT, or the DOT member, I think the board just needs to be sure, maybe it's just an email, but just to send out to ensure we're all okay with the letter that goes back to them, that the side, the crosswalks are included, the improvements that Trustee Ursink had mentioned. So anyways, I think that somehow the board members need to just make sure that final, this is Shorewood's response, whether it come back before the board or maybe through an email communication directly to you, that might make sense. And then as we move forward with that Capitol Drive intersection, I don't know if anyone else on the board remembers, but as a Public Works member, there may be some significant impacts to the community that we need to do a lot of outreach on. So as that's moving forward in design, I really feel strongly that the board members be kept abreast, and that if we need additional meetings to decide on something, that we would have those. Any other? Go ahead.
I can actually answer you that. So
sure.
I think this is something can be addressed during the design phase, because it's something I work with on so many projects before. So what we typically do is we actually study those turning movement, develop impacts, and look at different alternatives, okay? And then we set up something called local official meetings. Only we meeting with you and all the board members and maybe aldermen and alderwomen within the district. We discuss with them that this is the options we came up with, maybe impact on parking, impact on signal, setbacks, something from that nature. And after we brief you about those alternatives, we develop exhibits and we do public outreach. We send mailing to all the GIS within 300 feet from the project, informing them about potential changes to that intersection and what impact they are. And we encourage them to, right now we're gonna do it virtually. Before we used to do it face-to-face. Now we're gonna do it virtually. They will come in. We will put on our website or your website, we will decide brochures, pictures, details to show them potential impacts and to give them my email or the consultant email address for feedback. So they can tell us, yes, we agree, no, we don't agree, and that's why. So these are the processes that we go through in similar situations.
Thank you so much, Trustee Amenta.
Are you going to do a traffic study or an intersection study looking at traffic volumes through that intersection, or are you going to rely on the study we had a couple of years ago?
No, we're not doing any studies. The only study that we do if there is any operation, like any delays out there, if there is any crashes due to geometry. So we look into that. We typically do this in areas where we have new development. So we want to do traffic forecast and see maybe the impact of new traffic patterns on that specific segment. But this is a fully urban developed environment. So again, there is no safety flag that tell us we have to do a new study for that area, unless this is something else we're not aware of. But it seemed like it's a steady traffic volume, nothing new.
Okay. Is that all you have, Trustee Menta? Okay. Any other questions by board members or comments? Okay, if not, thank you so much for your time today, Christina.
Thank you.
And we'll be seeing you again and look forward, Rebecca, to receiving a response of what they hear from Milwaukee.
All right, I'll follow up with you, Rebecca, tomorrow sometime. Thank you so much, guys. Have a good night.
You too.
Okay, bye.
Okay, so why do I have, so Clerk Brockman, can you tell me the next agenda item because I lost a page?
Yep, we are on the consent agenda.
Oh, okay, then I didn't lose a page. All right, we're on 5. Consent agenda items. Items under the consent agenda may be acted upon by one motion. If in the judgment of any village board member, a consent agenda needs discussion, the item can be placed in the items removed from the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Trustee Warren, second by Trustee Ursink. Any items to be removed? Seeing none, any further discussion? And seeing none, go ahead and take the roll call.
Trustee Ursink.
Aye.
Trustee Carpenter.
Aye.
Trustee Backhorst.
Yes.
Trustee Menta.
Aye.
Trustee Stokebrand.
Aye.
Trustee Warren.
Aye.
President Rosick.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. So there was no items to remove, so we'll move down to item 7, public hearing, which there are none. So we'll move to number 8, citizens to be heard. It's items for matters not on the agenda. Discussion may follow. Comment on non-agenda items or discussion and action may come at a future meeting. Clerk Brockman, has anyone registered to speak?
There is a Richard Podell, but I believe he wants to speak on item 9C, unless he would like to speak now during citizens to be heard.
These, I believe, citizens to be heard are for non-agenda items.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah, otherwise that's the only other person that's registered. So at this time, I do not see any hands raised.
And no hands raised. Okay, then we'll move on to 9, new business. 9A, consider easements associated with 4480 Lake Drive sewer improvements. Joel? Rebecca? Who's here to speak on this item?
Joel or Nathan, do you want to take the lead? Nathan, you're on mute.
Or your volume is really low.
There you go.
Anyone? I'm not on mute.
Oh, we can't hear. No, you need to turn your volume up. We can't hear you.
Okay. Is that any better?
Yes.
That's a lot better.
Okay, excellent. Okay. The short answer is we need access to a few of the properties that are adjacent to the sewer work that we're going to be conducting, that the village is going to be hopefully starting in December. These are just formalized agreements to gain access during an agreed amount or agreed upon daily work hours, and to have the cooperation of the property owners. These are temporary at this point. There's going to be one permanent easement that we're going to work out with 4480 to give the village access to the sewer once the work is complete. That's also been reviewed by the homeowner, and we have an agreement in principle, and there's a final survey being done by the engineering firm, and that will we'll have to finalize that once the additional work is complete, and then we'll be back with that. But at this point, they're just pretty uniform agreements. They're pretty much boilerplate, and it describes the area that we're going to be working on. And the only real reason it needs to come before the board is the consideration or the payment for that is we are giving them $1 each, and so to approve the payment of said dollar, it's before the board.
Trustee Stokbrand?
I would like to move approval of the proposed temporary construction easements at 4470, 4480, and 4496 North Lake Drive to facilitate the construction of the 4480 North Lake Drive storm sewer repair.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Trustee Stokbrand, a second by Trustee Bachhorst. Trustee Warren?
Yeah, this is just because I worry about everything, so I want to ask. So the permanent, obviously, we need to get that permanent easement in place. I'm assuming we don't anticipate any difficulty doing that, and what's the time frame for actually getting that in place? Because I'd hate to go down this road and then all of a sudden have a hiccup there.
No, that's a great point. What I did is I sent the framework with all the terms and conditions related to access to the resident who looked it over and shared it with his attorney and responded back that the terms and conditions therein were acceptable. The last piece of the puzzle is we've also given them a diagram that shows the areas where access is needed throughout as the years go by for maintenance and those types of things. So we have an agreement in principle, but what we need, the last piece of the puzzle we're waiting on is there's a survey that'll be done to give a legal description a little bit more specifically than the diagram we have. And the reason for that is, be it 100 years down the road or 200 years down the road when we're all gone, someone else can go to the Register of Deeds office and say, okay, well, what is the specific area of the property that's subject to the easement? And they can look at it and it'll say so many feet from this corner and so many feet from that corner and this latitude, longitude, et cetera, et cetera. It'll define specifically and what area is subject. So that's the last remaining puzzle. We're just waiting for the survey to be done so we can attach the exhibit. But the rest of it has already been worked through and agreed in principle. I shared that with the resident and his attorney a while ago, and I think he emailed me over the weekend again that the terms and conditions were acceptable.
Okay, thanks. That allays some of my concerns or fears. So that sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, lovely. Does any other trustee have a discussion or comment? If
I have
not,
a question.
oh yes, Trustee.
So that we don't need to make this approval conditional on the approval of a permanent easement?
No, this just gives us, this just gives the village the access during the construction phase. We're going to be, once in a while, we need to, because of the scope of it, we'll need to be on neighboring properties for short periods of time. So
Right,
this
I'm just saying
defines,
that nothing like moving it along by saying, we'll get the temporary thing going and start the construction project if we are locked in on the permanent easement. Do you see what I'm saying?
right, that we, and for all intents and purposes, we are locked in on the permanent easement. Yeah.
Okay, the only thing I would say, maybe we should put the permanent easement part of the next page has a timeline. I think the last one is supposed to be May 2021 instead of 2020. And do we want to put in there something about the permanent easement as part of our timeline too? Just something to consider for staff, but not part of the motion.
staff? Nathan?
Anyone? In terms of, I'm still not, I wasn't quite sure about the timeline. I think that's an excellent point in terms of, you know, put it on our list of things to do to make sure that we're moving forward. But it's, my understanding, as soon as we get the survey back, we'll have it. It'll probably be executed before we're anywhere near having the project finished.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so if there's no further comments, we want to take the roll call.
Trustee Warren,
Aye.
trustee Menta,
Aye.
trustee Stokebrand,
Aye.
trustee Carpenter,
Aye.
trustee Ursink.
Aye.
Trustee Bachhorst,
Yes.
President Rosick.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. We'll move on to new business 9B. Consider memorandum of understanding with Shorewood School District for AMI equipment. Rebecca, or
I don't know if we lost Joel, or Joel, are you on the line to speak to AMI?
do you want me to skip to the next?
If not, we're ready to proceed. It's an agreement that simply memorializes what we had previously discussed with the school district just prior to COVID occurring, if you will recall, last March. And Nathan has reviewed the agreement, so we can answer any questions that you may have.
Trustee Carpenter.
I don't have any questions. I would like to move to the approval of the memorandum of understanding between the Village of Shorewood and the Shorewood School District as a placement for the water meter data collection units.
I'll second that.
So we have a motion by Trustee Carpenter, a second by Trustee Warren. Any further discussion? My only question is, there is no cost, correct? Okay.
Mm-mm.
All right. Any other questions or concerns or discussion? If not, take the roll.
Trustee Bachhorst,
Yes.
trustee Carpenter,
Yes.
trustee Ursink,
Yes.
trustee Stokebrand,
Aye.
trustee Warren,
Aye.
trustee Menta,
Aye.
President Rosick.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. The next agenda item is 9, new business C. Consider seasonal extension of applications for special privilege approval for outdoor seating in the sidewalk public right-of-way. Are we taking these all, Rebecca, at one time?
I'll defer to Director Gruppentrag, however he believes to be most efficient.
Director Bart?
Correct. It was my intention to discuss them all at one time. I also have the motion drafted with respect to how they could all be approved at one time, or but they are agenda sized separately. But typically there was on the consent agenda, but since this is a new kind of topic for us, I put them on new business so that we could discuss it. But my preference would be discuss them all at once together and then provide a motion to approve or deny them all together as well.
Thank you. I did ask Rebecca a question for tonight, and I just didn't get a response yet. I'm assuming from the memo, these were due to COVID and wanting more time, an extension for outdoor seating so that people could spend more time at the businesses during this pandemic. And but my question to Rebecca was everybody given this opportunity? Was the business district notified? Were all businesses notified that there was an opportunity to be on this agenda?
I'll defer to Steph from the bid who's on the call. She did reach out to our office to ask for a list of businesses that were approved to have them currently. So once again, this is an extension of current approvals. So I don't believe that the entire bid was asked about this. I believe the members of the bid that had current approvals were asked if they wanted to extend their approval. But Steph, if I'm wrong in that, feel free to let me know.
Is that correct?
That's correct. It was just 2 who already had existing extensions and if they wanted to keep them longer.
Thank you so much. I'll open it up for any questions from board members. Trustee Carpenter. And then Trustee Menta.
In regards to parklets, so if you had a permit for a parklet, are we allowing that extension, or is it just the extension of premises?
So no parklets were requested within this particular set of applications. It is my understanding that parklets will be recommended or requested for extensions on the November 2nd agenda, but they needed time to get together to define a snow removal plan of operations. So we were willing to take these particular ones because they were on file, that parklets would not happen until November 2nd.
Okay. I'm very concerned about our business district's ability to make it through winter. I'm really worried about our restaurants and, so I think if there's something that we can do to help extend their season, their outdoor season, it's something that I would feel is worthwhile. So, thank you.
Samantha, was it you and then trustee Warren?
Yeah, I noticed you split them out into ones that serve food and drink and ones that don't. And you said based on a need to assure proper snow removal within the business district. I mean, the snow removal concern, I'd like to understand more the snow removal concern. Wouldn't that be the same whether you're serving food or not?
I'd be happy to take a first stab at this, but if Joel wants to provide the DPW perspective. So there is a concern that if we get heavy snowfalls, that all the sidewalk snow will be pushed into the street, which is not accepted by policy. And so the discussion was, we understood the need for these more so in eating and drinking establishments, but less so in co-working and or retail establishments. And so our middle ground, and this is just staff recommendation, the board and the bid can definitely differ. I'm not opposed to conversation on this, but just based on potential concern for where that snow might be, we thought it was worth considering it for food and drink establishments where people would be expected to sit out there, but for retail establishments or co-working, we did not necessarily think that was the way to go. But once again, that's just our perspective. You're happy to discuss or disagree.
But so because some of these are actually in the area where the snow would normally be stored, is what you're saying?
Yeah, most of them are, because you have to maintain the 5 feet of public sidewalk. So most of them are in that sidewalk to curb zone where the snow would be stored. So that was just our perspective of needing to at least try to establish some place for storage.
Well, what is the plan then for snow storage for those places? I mean, I don't know what the plan is, but whatever it is, it would seem to apply to both,
At this point, none of the businesses provided us with a plan. If that's a detail that you'd like, we could definitely request a more specific plan on that. We just received the request for an extension.
Don't we do snow removal in the business district?
I think they push it to the parkway and then DPW comes and takes it from the parkway. I mean, you're still responsible for in front of your own property.
Okay. Are you done with your questions, trustee Menta?
Well, I mean, I'm not clear if there's tables in the parkway and they have to clear. I mean, I don't know where they could go except piling in front of other businesses. So, I mean, I think we would need to clarify with them what we expect them to do with the snow, because I'm just confused. It's like, if we're not, the snow is going to be the same snow, whether it's in front of Malamado or Boulangerie. And so it seems like there's the same snow issue in both places. So, and I'm not clear on what the recommendation is for handling snow, because we're going to have tables where we would normally put snow. So I don't know.
Any comment from staff, and then trustee Warren, then trustee Ursing. Director Bart.
I mean, within the memo, I had the statement that said applicant shall be made aware that snow may not be pushed onto the street if snow is typically stored in areas that will be occupied by extended outdoor seating. Plans for its removal will need to be made. I wasn't requesting that as a condition for board oversight, but if you want to see that, we can definitely request it and let you know what those plans are. I don't know that they know what those plans are. This really is kind of a request to just consider something. So, but I'm happy, to work with Steph and the businesses to get those plans if necessary.
Trustee Warren.
I just wanted to kind of going back to what Trustee Carpenter said. I agree. I think that during these pandemic times, I'm concerned about our businesses and their ability to make it through the winter. Functionally thinking about the snow issue, I see that is something that we need to work through, but it actually might kind of resolve itself, to be totally honest. I mean, I can't foresee many people leaving tables out when it gets really cold, which if you go out tonight, we're already on our way there. So it might be something where, maybe we have an early snowfall, but, I would think that some of those issues would just, by virtue of Wisconsin's cold weather, resolve themselves. So I see this almost as unfortunately, just a few week extension as opposed to like all the way until March. I just don't think, unless there's some heating methodology that I don't know about, I don't think you can make it that entire way, unfortunately. So, I mean, just bottom line, I'd be supportive of all 6 of these and extending.
Trustee Ursink?
Yeah, I'm on the same page here with Trustee Warren and Trustee Carpenter. Our business district faces just a very, very uphill challenge right now. We just got word that Vito's closed not so long ago, so we are losing a lot of our businesses. I don't know if the last time you've taken a drive up and down Capitol and Oakland, there are several empty storefronts now. So we need to do whatever we can as trustees to minimize that. And if these businesses are asking for extra space on the street for tables or whatever, I think we have to oblige. Snow is really the least of their concerns at this moment. It's staying open and trying to keep the business, above the line. So I feel strongly that we need to be flexible here, and we need to work with our businesses, and we need to help them wherever we can.
Thank you, Trustee Ursink. Trustee Bachhorst?
Yeah, thank you. I agree. We just approved, I think it was about a $5,000 per business for folks who requested a grant to pay their rent in the spring, because we were very concerned about the business district in the early parts of COVID. And now we're seeing that this can continue on, and I agree. We can't have every detail worked out in advance, but we have a bid director, staff who's highly trained and professional. We've got Bart, we've got a very good staff here. I'm confident that they'll figure those things out. And just as I think it was Trustee Warren had mentioned, that organically, they're not going to be leaving these tables out. But of course, staff can include that. And I imagine staff will remind people too, that there are special considerations. We don't have time to come up with a perfect draft, bring this back to the board 3 or 4 times. And I'm comfortable with it as is. And those of you, I'm assuming that everyone else is in the same boat as I am, that you read through the packet, ask staff of questions ahead of time of this meeting so that we can make educated decisions tonight. So I'm ready to vote.
Okay, and I just would like to voice my support for any relief in the business district for the businesses, whether or not they're eateries or retail or co-sharing spaces. Every single one of them is suffering, and I do see the empty spaces. I have one myself. One side of my store has been emptied, so that 2 rents are not paid. I do feel, as a business owner, and I'm expressing it because I think the only small business owner on the board, but I do feel what they're feeling, and any help that the Shorewood board could give them is probably a good thing at this moment. Any local government, any state government, and any federal government. So with that, is there any other comments? I see Trustee Ursink and then Director Bart.
I would like to just make a motion, unless Bart, you were saying you have a recommended motion.
Bart, why don't you go first? And
I
then
just wanted to clarify that the recommendation in the board packet does have specific recommendations for North Shore Boulangerie. And they are on the call tonight. I see North Shore Boulangerie. I believe Gene is on the call, as well as his attorney, Richard Podell, and he had requested to speak before. With respect to their installation, they've installed a tent over a portion of the sidewalk, including the public way, the 5-foot public way. That tent, the ceiling or the head height of the entrance of that tent is 6'2". Based on discussion with my building inspector, the minimum head clearance height for a habitable space is 7'6". And or the minimum height for a commercial door would be 7 feet. So the 6'2" that is currently installed is below that standard. So in talking with the business, and they're here to present their case, it's our recommendation that if they were to keep that over the sidewalk, that it should be at a minimum head clearance, which would require them to modify their current installation. If the board disagrees with that, that's fine. I just want to be clear on that. The second one is they have requested to place their tables in the bus stop area. Our policy specifically forbids tables in the bus stop area with respect to passengers exiting the rear door. And so the motion in the packet says approval subject to no seating in the designated curb stop and a 7 foot 6-inch minimum head clearance over the public throughway. But I'm happy if you're willing to have North Shore Boulangerie make their case, I'm happy to hear it as well.
Can I just pull the board very quickly? Does anyone have any objection to the 6-foot clearance for head height? If
I don't have objections, but I'd love to hear from Gene to understand if it's an easy fix or you know, what are his thoughts about it.
okay, I just wanted to save some time. If we had no objection, then we would just move on to the bus stop area. Okay, so we do have a question about it. And I'm sorry, what was the name of the speaker that wanted to speak?
Gene.
I think it was the attorney, correct?
I think it was Richard. I think Richard wants to speak.
That's correct. It was Richard who registered to speak.
Okay, Richard, would you like to say anything? Clerk Brockman.
Richard, we're unable to hear you. It does look like you're unmuted.
If you can't, maybe Jean's on the line.
Unless Gene wants to speak. Otherwise, he is unmuted, so that is about all I can do.
Okay, Jean, are you on the line? Clerk Brockman.
Gene looks like he's muted.
Unmute him.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hello,
Hello.
this is Gene.
Hi. Do you have any comments for us?
As for the head clearance, structurally there's nothing we can do. That is as tall as it goes. It's as tall, and that's as tall as our umbrellas are during the summer. So I'm not sure there's anything we can do about that. The time that it would take to order a new structure, we've only got about a couple more weeks where we can actually have people outside. So I'm not sure there's a way to fix that actually.
Trustee Erson, did you have a question on that?
Yeah, Gene, just to follow up, how long do you plan on having the tent out there? And then also being aware of farmers markets and tents, how is the tent secured to the building or weighted down?
Okay, if we make it to mid-November, I mean, to be honest, this last cold snap, since we tried to test heaters to try to warm up the space and it didn't work. So if we get 2 more weeks out of it, we're going to be lucky. So that's, what is it? It's like the first week of November. If we get that far, we'll be very lucky. People are already, it's too cold for them. We have some people sitting outside in parkas and with blankets, but I'm not sure how much longer that's going to last. So if we could get to the 15th of November maximally, that would be as far as I think it could go.
And how is the structure held down or secured?
It's secured. Each leg is secured into the sidewalk, and the structure is secured to the building by metal straps.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And is there any questions by the board members then on the second item of the bus stop? I definitely do not believe we should be allowing anything in the bus stop area. Anybody else have questions? Okay.
Another. So, are you looking at those tables to be, a couple weeks as long, in mid-November, or what are you thinking for timeline for those tables? Gene, are you there?
So he's muted again.
Here, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, the same timeline on the tables. I mean, once it's too cold to sit out with the structure, it's too cold to sit out without the structure. So yeah, that's not going to go much. I would be surprised if it does snow. We will take care of it. I take care of our own snow removal. The landlord doesn't. As for the 4 tables that are nearest Oakland, I provided more than it's greater than 20 feet distance between where the bus stop sign is and where my tables are. Now I realize that by the rule says that the bus stop is all the way back up near Draft and Vessel where the no parking sign is. But these tables have been functioning since June and there have been no issues. Our customers have not had bus riders stepping on into their space. The buses, like I said, there's 20 feet of space that's free and clear that only has the municipal bench, flower pot, and what's the last thing? Trash can. There's a Shorewood trash can. So there's at least 20 feet there. There have been no issues. My customers love sitting there, and if they had been kind of confronted with bus people unloading, that wouldn't be the case. But I've not once seen it all summer long.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that, Gene. If this is, these are tough times. You plan on having this up for another couple weeks. I'm just in favor of kind of going against our policy at this point and letting you keep those tables there. So that would be my standing. And I'd love to, hear what other trustees think about that.
I mean, I can.
Trustee Warren.
Yeah, I think given the limited time and the fact that it's been up since the tables have been up since the summer, I'm okay with creating an exception here, both in terms of height and in tables. So I'd be okay with that. I'm in the same wavelength as Trustee Ursink.
Trustee Bachhorst.
I am as well. And if people are ready to vote, I'd like to take all 5 items together.
Go ahead and make a motion.
I move to approve items. Sorry, I don't have the agenda in front of me. Yeah, hold on. Of course, I left my glasses in the kitchen.
That's okay. You move to approve
9C 1 through 6.
Including allowing the Boulangerie to keep the current seating arrangement and tent height.
Yes, thanks.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion by Trustee Bachhorst, a second by Trustee Warren. Trustee Menta.
Wait, so their current permit allows them to be in the bus stop? No.
Correct. No, it does not.
Okay, I'd like to amend the motion to remove seating in the bus stop and remove any requirement for a minimum clearance.
Wait, say the last part again, because the motion was that the clearance wouldn't matter. So do you want to put the?
Oh, was that in the motion to take out the clearance? Oh, okay, then I'll just move an amendment to not allow seating within the bus stop.
Okay, do we have a second? Okay, seeing none, the amendment fails. So we will, any further discussion on the motion? If not, Clerk Brockman, please take the roll.
Trustee Ursink.
Aye.
Trustee Menta.
Aye.
Trustee Warren.
Aye.
Trustee Bachhorst.
Yes.
Trustee Stokerbrand.
Aye.
Trustee Carpenter.
Aye.
President Rosick.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. And good luck to all the businesses.
Thanks, you guys. I'll continue to work with everyone to make sure that, snow isn't an issue, but like you all mentioned, it may kind of work out itself. So we'll see what happens here. Thank you.
Thanks, Steph, for being here. Have a great night. So now we're on to reports for village officials. From the village president, I have nothing new to report at the time. So does any village trustee? Looks like Milwaukee Health Department, Safer School, Trustee Bachhorst.
Yeah, thank you. It's just going to take me a second to find it. So if there's someone else who would want to go ahead beforehand, that's up to you, President Rozak, but I just need a minute.
Yep. Trustee Menta and then Trustee Ursink, and then we'll come back to Blackhorse.
Yeah, I have something I'd like to share. There have been questions raised by certain members of the community in public about an accident that occurred on school property by a member of my family. I have a letter here from our insurance company, Erie Insurance, addressed to my husband. And this is from Stephen Fordham, who's a liability adjuster for Erie Insurance. On the above captioned date, there was damage caused to your property, meaning the school district, by our insured driver. Your insurance carrier, meaning the district's insurance carrier, Chubb Insurance Group, paid you for your loss minus your deductible. That's the district. Then Chubb, their insurance company, reached out to us, my insurance company, asking for subrogation. We agreed on the total amount of the damages, including your deductible, and paid that to them directly, as is industry standard. There was a draft sent to the Chubb Insurance Group. They gave a claim amount for the total agreed amount of the damages. Chubb owed you, the school district, the replacement cost for the property that was damaged. However, our insured owed Chubb the actual cash value or the depreciated value of the property that was damaged. That has been paid. If your deductible has not been returned by your carrier, then you should contact them directly for that money. I want to let everyone know, and the public, me and my family are fully insured for liability, and our insurance company has paid our liability in this matter. And I know there have been somewhat inaccurate stories being told around about town about this accident and this insurance. And I think anyone who's been in a car accident and who understands how liability insurance works would understand that the two insurance companies got together, made an agreement, and everything went the way it was supposed to go. If there's an issue that the school district feels they need to bill me for some extra money, that issue is really between them and their insurance company. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Amenta, Trustee Ursink, and then Trustee Bockhorst.
Wow. Following that up, this is the last weekend of the farmers market. If you'd like to come and stock up on some grass-fed meats or any goodies, this is going to be the last weekend for the farmers market. And after that, Estabrook Parkway will be reopened for travel. So all you folks that have really missed driving through Estabrook, it will be reopened on the 26th. So make sure you stop down and pick up some food from the market on the 25th.
Thanks so much, Trustee Ursink. Trustee Bockhorst.
Thank you. I'm just going to report on the second item that I have on here and save the other one in case it's needed in a later date. But just wanted to say the League of Wisconsin Municipalities Conference, albeit virtual, this is one of those times that you look at a current situation that's a crisis and you look for opportunities. And even though attendance was down this year, as well as, the price reflected the virtual aspect and the networking that you don't get to do, I will say there were some very big positives regarding doing this virtually, because now, because of the pandemic, many of us have been forced to use Zoom and other online communication tools to reach a larger audience and really reach an audience of geographical diversity, let's just say. So from that, we've learned that we can connect a lot of the municipalities across the state and including at the National League of Cities across the country in a more cost-effective way. Now, like I said before, it's not necessarily a benefit as far as in person. There's so many things that you miss out when you don't have that opportunity. But this village and will likely benefit from some of the expanded options that we'll see in the future, including the equity and race training opportunities that the league is going to be sponsoring. And they're currently looking for directors and hosts and whatnot. And Sam Coleman, YMCA, other programs have been brought up, and it was a really great discussion. So just wanted to mention that. And I think that's all I have as far as the report.
Okay, any other trustees have a report? Okay, if not, we'll move on to village manager.
No report.
All right. So we'll move on to agenda item number 11, items for future consideration. Does anyone have an item for future consideration? I would like to just mention, I'm not going to have a motion and a vote, but because I actually would have a conflict of interest, but if there's any other trustee that feels a second wave of assistance from CDA to the business district, please think about that as an item for future agenda, not tonight necessarily, but I just wanted to throw it out there that the state and feds are going through those cycles. And so I won't make a formal motion, but I just wanted to throw it out there. Trustee Bachhorst?
Yeah, it's actually a great point. I would love us to discuss an item, along that, to review the from the CDA and the bid, the grants that were already administered in this village, and maybe get a report on that, and then also examine potentially extending that. So I would be more than happy to discuss any portion of what I just mentioned or all of it. But fine if not, and maybe the CDA and bid, that's something they'll bring to us separately. So yeah, I'll throw it out there, see if there's a second. So
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Trustee Bachhorst, a second by Trustee Ursink. Any further discussion? I'm going to excuse myself from the vote, so let's take a roll call vote.
Trustee Carpenter.
Aye.
Trustee Menta.
No.
Trustee Ursink.
Aye.
Trustee Stokebrand.
Aye.
Trustee Bachhorst.
yes.
Trustee Warren.
Aye.
And President Rosick is recused. So motion passes 5-1.
Thank you. Is there any other future items for agenda? If not, I will take a motion.
Can I just ask, when are we, because I know we have a long list, and when are we going to review that list and prioritize that list?
Coming to you this week. Thank you for asking.
Through email?
Yes.
Okay. And you'll bring the results, so we send them directly to you, and the results come back to the board how?
They will be provided back November 2nd.
Okay, Trustee Ursink.
Before we leave, I just want to say this must be the quickest meeting you guys have ever had here. This is incredible. And then Sarah, I'd love to get just a quick snapshot or an update on how the election is going. I know you're probably putting a lot of work into that. So you could just let us know how everything's going, and if there's any hurdles or if everything's going smooth, just love an update.
That's definitely worth extending the meeting for. Yeah, I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah.
So we've mailed about just over 6,400 absentees. We've gotten about 4,400 back. So we really, if you could push people and encourage them to return the ones that are still outstanding, we would appreciate that. In-person voting starts tomorrow at 8 a.m. at the Village Center, and will continue until October 30th. So we are gearing up. We are all set with our election workers. We had a huge turnout of people willing to volunteer, which was great. We have plenty of PPE and are expecting good turnout. So we are doing well.
Thanks for the update. Okay, then I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Bachhorst, second by Trustee Ursink. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.